Hello, my name is Dennis Pilarchak, and I'm the manager of building solutions for Nucor Corporation's new construction solutions team. At Construction Solutions, we partner with you, the innovators and game changers of the world, to find unique and groundbreaking solutions to the most complex construction projects. Projects like you'll see today. I invite you to partner with us at nucor.com/construction-solutions. This session is part one of two sessions where we will take a closer look at the CTBUH Award of Excellence winners in the 200 to 299 meter best tall building category. Our first presentation is on 110 North Wacker, located in Chicago, and presented by James Getch, Chairman and Co-CEO of Getch Partners, and Anthony Scacco, Chief Operating Officer at Riverside Investment and Development. This project, which utilized a framing system comprised of nearly 10,000 tons of structural steel proudly produced by Nucor and our Nucor Yamato Mill in Blytheville, Arkansas, overcame significant site challenges, including a trapezoidal shape and specific zoning requirements due to its proximity to the Chicago River. But the result was a dramatic lobby and public river walk and an efficient office plan above. Now to James and Anthony.
Hi, I'm Tony Scacco, Chief Operating Officer with Riverside Investment and Development. And on behalf of my partners at the Howard Hughes Corporation, I'm extraordinarily proud to present 110 North Wacker Drive to the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitats. Joining me today is the Chairman and Co-CEO of Getch Partners, Jim Getch. And Jim and I would like to thank our other team members on this project, which include Clark Construction, Thornton Tomasetti, ESD, CBRE, and of course, the primary anchor tenant for the building, Bank of America. 110 North Wacker Bank of America Tower is a 56-story commercial office tower located on the south branch of the Chicago River on Wacker Drive between Washington Street and Randolph Street in the West Loop submarket. This site is roughly 1 acre in total size and is surrounded on 3 sides by bridges and the 4th side, as mentioned, by the Chicago River. In addition to those dimensional complexities, the site narrows by roughly 40%, moving from south to north due to the change in geometry of the Chicago River, giving the parcel a trapezoidal shape that would ordinarily not be suitable for a high-performance commercial office building, but for the creative solutions deployed by Getch Partners in their design of 110 North Wacker.
On one side of the site, we have Wacker Drive, which has become the major commercial office building corridor in the city. On the other side of the site is the Chicago River, which has been the backbone of the city's growth and development from its inception. In the early 1800s, it was along the Chicago River where traders and explorers met to exchange goods, as well as information about the new frontier. By 1830, at the confluence of the north and south branches of the river, hotels and taverns were built on each of the 3 points, and the area became the epicenter of economic and social life in the growing young city. By the mid-1800s, the river was essential to industry and manufacturing. Raw materials flowed into the city through the river, and the finished products flowed out of the city through the river. In time, railroads provided a more direct means for the distribution of goods and the transportation of passengers, and the river traffic declined dramatically. Along with it, in time, the river became polluted, and it was a health hazard for the city. Originally, the Chicago River flowed into Lake Michigan, which was the primary source of drinking water for the city. To avoid polluting the city's drinking water, the flow of the river had to be reversed, and the river was redirected to flow from Lake Michigan all the way to the Mississippi. This was an early example of a city that made no small plans. While the river lost its commercial value, the street next to the river, which was called Wacker Drive, became an important street. Although at first it was used primarily to access parking lots, in time, buildings sprung up along Wacker Drive, such as the headquarters building for Morton Salt, which was built on the site of 110 North Wacker in 1960. In the last 10 years, as more and more interesting buildings were built along the Chicago River, the Chicago Architectural River Cruises became the city's most popular tourist activity. The river cruises provided a totally unique way to view and to experience the city. To reinforce the recreational aspect of the river, the city developed zoning that required all new building sites along the river to maintain a 30-foot wide, open-to-the-sky public riverwalk. The Chicago River has become one of the most important public spaces in the entire city. The river is the front yard of the central business district. The Chicago River is as important as ever to the city, but the reasons for its importance have changed fundamentally. Given the Wacker Drive location, there's no doubt that the highest and best use for the redevelopment of 110 North Wacker Drive was to be as a Class A office building. However, as Tony mentioned, the trapezoidal shape of the site did not allow for the typical floor plate with a center core and 45-foot lease spans on each side of the core. To maintain that 45-foot lease span within the trapezoidal shape of the site, we stepped the core. And to take advantage of the diagonal property line along the river, on the west facade, we established 5-foot setbacks, 30 feet on center. This provided the equivalent of 11 corner offices with dramatic views up and down the river. Given the importance that the city placed on the Riverwalk, even more challenging was the question of how to satisfy the zoning requirements to maintain a 30-foot wide, open-to-the-sky public walkway along the river. That was a requirement that made the site almost undevelopable. We asked for relief from the city. The portion of the building along the Riverwalk was raised to provide a 60-foot high soffit above the Riverwalk, not open to the sky, but perhaps even better because it provided a 240-foot long covered walkway with an interesting structural element that framed unobstructed views across the river. I think this is an interesting composite illustrating some of the details of the construction of the area along the Riverwalk. The resulting architecture provided a memorable structural solution, and the 5-foot setbacks gave the building a sense of detail and accentuated the verticality of the building. Here's a ground floor plan. Note that 50% of the site is dedicated to public open space, and you can see the landscape path along the river that is under the building. On the opposite side of the Riverwalk, the lobby is entered from Wacker Drive at 2 points, and the elevator vestibules are accessed from one side, which provides views to the river on the other side. On the Wacker Drive elevation, the curtain wall expresses the columns with stainless steel fins, 30 feet on center, and the curtain wall has sandblasted glass fins, 5 feet on center. The lobby enclosure is a highly transparent, cable-supported, low-iron, non-reflecting glass wall. The lobby interior is very much a part of the streetscape, both during the day and also in the evening. And when you're inside the lobby, the exterior streetscape is also a part of the interior experience.
As noted, 110 North Wacker Drive is 56 stories of commercial office comprising roughly 1.5 million rentable square feet. As we'll discuss in a moment, it deploys state-of-the-art technology. Of particular highlight is the destination dispatch elevators, as well as the private terraces that are delivered on 4 floors of the building. Each floor of the building has direct access to the amenity floors located on 3, 23, and 24, as well as access to the lower level parking and restaurant space. Each floor is enabled with up to a 10-foot finished ceiling condition or 9'6" with a 6-inch raised floor. But on multiple floors throughout the building, totaling 7 in total, we've got opportunities for up to a 12-foot finished ceiling condition, including one in each of the low-rise, mid-rise, and high-rise banks. Our goal in designing the building is to minimize the total floor-to-floor dimension while maximizing the finished ceiling condition. As you can see, we're able to fit a 10-foot finished floor into a 13-6 slab to slab, meaning there's a 3'6" zone within which we're able to house all of the structural and mechanical elements that service a typical floor in the primary lease span. There's many different considerations that go into creating a high efficiency floor plate. I won't mention all of them, but some of them are listed on the screen. The primary consideration is maximizing the usable area out in the tenant space as a percentage of the total gross area of the floor plate. That requires a highly consolidated core, which necessitates careful planning amongst the various program elements inside the core. On the 23rd and 24th floors, we've got a state-of-the-art fitness center operated by Kanema that is designed and fit out like a very high-end third-party gym, but captured within the 23rd and 24th floor space with tremendous views up and down the river. In addition, on the third floor of the building, we've got a large banquet and event space, which includes a 400-seat ballroom/conference center, a large pre-function space attached to a commercial kitchen, and multiple individual boardrooms that can be demised into different sizes, all of which is intended to act as an extension of the tenant space so that they don't have to build the requisite meeting space within their premises. I can't overstate the importance of connecting outdoor space to the private tenant space. This is an image of the fourth floor plan for Bank of America. And you can see the aerial image of the size and utility of that terrace as adjunct space to their office. Similarly, on the 26th floor of their premise, as the building sets back, you can see this second large terrace flanked by landscape with a 7-foot handrail to moderate wind conditions, provisioned with seating and informal workspace, with dramatic views of the city skyline up and down the Chicago River. And then, of course, at the top floors of the building, we've got penthouse terraces with a similar design condition, enabling 9 months of the year to be utilized as outdoor adjunct space to the interior rentable area. There's a lot of different approaches to technology, and commercial real estate is one of the slowest moving industries with respect to adaptation of technology. Suffice to say, over the 20-year history working together with Getch Partners and our other consultants, we've taken an approach that seeks to maximize the deployment of proven technology, going so far as to beta test it in one building, only to roll it out in the next. Our focus, in particular, is on telecommunications, vertical transportation, sustainability, facilities management, and operating systems, and reducing the overall cost of operation to our tenants via infrastructure selections. In a post-COVID circumstance, those quote unquote typical building technologies have been augmented by a high degree of focus on air quality, particularly continuous measurement and verification, and then deployment of that measurement and verification technology to automate via integrations with the building automation systems and modulate the HVAC operation based on air quality across a host of attributes via that continuous monitoring I just mentioned. Again, in a post-COVID circumstance, minimizing the number of passengers on each elevator trip while minimizing the time to destination is critical, as is delivering a low-touch, no-touch environment inclusive of automated building entries, Bluetooth-enabled hands-free security devices, touchless elevator systems, as well as antimicrobial hardware and touchless fixtures in the other building spaces. Finally, the focus on daylighting and access to outdoor space is even higher than previously, which is why 110 North Wacker has so many special spaces, both for the public and tenant private space alike. In conclusion, I'd like to summarize the reasons why we believe 110 North Wacker makes a significant contribution to the architectural record of the city of Chicago. First, design. The innovative core and cladding design enables a high-efficiency rectilinear floor plate on a non-rectilinear land parcel. In addition, the team has thoughtfully integrated outdoor space within the tenant leasable premises. As well, the project is highly sustainable designed with LEED Gold pre-certification, in addition to a high degree of focus on health and wellness, leading to Well Building Institute platinum certification. Second, the building sets new standards for technology innovation, whether in Chicago or nationally. The first element of this innovation is in its triple redundancy air purification system, including enhanced filtration, bipolar ionization systems for air purification, and a first of its kind AI-enabled technology for indoor air quality monitoring and controls integration, automating ventilation supply based on air quality. The third element of technology that I'd like to mention is its advanced destination controls elevator system with carbon fiber roping, which reduces elevator populations while delivering best-in-class performance. And finally, the building deploys Bluetooth digital credentialing and a hands-free entry and access control sequence for a frictionless, no-touch environment. The next element that sets the building apart is its historical preservation contributions, which include reutilization of prior building cladding materials, as well as multiple on-site historical markers celebrating the site's history and context within the city of Chicago. Next, the project has paid over $24 million into the city's fund for investment into underserved communities, as well as increasing property tax contributions from the site by 10 times, from $2.5 million a year to $25 million per year. And last but not least, the public realm contributions that the project makes to the city, with over half the site dedicated as outdoor public space, including new park and riverwalk amenities, as well as delivering a virtually open-to-sky riverwalk based on the innovative structural solution that lifts the first office floor more than 60 feet above the riverwalk level. And you'll see the transformation of this site from one of the most underutilized high-end commercial office locations in the city of Chicago to the final condition delivered by Getch Partners. Thank you again for your time and consideration, and we hope you enjoyed this presentation.
Thank you, James and Anthony. Next up, we have Arrow, located in New York City. This building demonstrates a keen awareness of its surrounding urban context, utilizing distinctive approaches in massing, organization, and exterior expression to create a thoughtful approach to contemporary urban living. We'll now hear from John Setra, founding principal of Setra Rudy Architecture, and Hillary Feshbeck, owner of Algin Management.
Hello, everyone. This is a presentation of our project called Arrow, which has received an award of excellence for best tall buildings in the 200 to 299 meter category. It's an innovative high-rise multifamily residential project in Midtown Manhattan. And with me will be presenting Hillary Feshbeck, our client.
Hi, I'm Hillary Feshbeck. I'm a partner at Algin Management. Algin was founded in 1957 by my father, Albert Ginsberg. It's currently run by myself, my brother Larry, my sister Leanne, and her son Sean. My dad built his first building called the Leanne in 1967. Prior to that, he had purchased existing buildings. Subsequently, he added development sites to a growing portfolio of primarily residential buildings. Currently, the portfolio has over 3,500 New York City apartments. In addition, we have commercial properties in Virginia, New Jersey, and Brooklyn. We take enormous pride in our properties and our development projects. Arrow was particularly important to us since it was to be named in part for our dad, as well as the state-of-the-art high-rise in Midtown, adding to the Manhattan skyline. We wanted this property to be our legacy building, and we hope you agree it has exceeded all expectations.
Thank you, Hillary. And I'm John Setra. I'm the architect for the project. Our firm is Setra Rudy Architecture. We're a firm that is New York City based, and we've been around now for over 35 years. We've developed a specialization in multifamily high-rise residential, amongst other things, but we have a true love of working on residential projects as we consider designing homes for people one of the most important things that we can do. And also within a very, very dense urban environment, there are many factors that we try to bring to our projects to improve people's environment and their living standards. And we want to thank the Council for Tall Buildings and Urban Habitats for this opportunity to share this project with you. Thank you. So there are three, I think, important categories or design considerations that we want to discuss in this talk. The one is the next iteration of the tower and podium concept. The second is how we developed the facade and how the articulation of the facade was very important to its success. And thirdly, to talk about how to create a vertical community in a very dense urban environment, and how we use architecture and building forms to do that. So Arrow is a building which is 224 meters in height and 62 stories, over 450,000 square feet, and has 420 residential units. It's in a very, very dense part of the city in Midtown Manhattan on West 52nd Street, literally footsteps away from the Times Square district. And it's located within the New York City Theater District, which is a special zoning district in New York. So Hillary, I think it's important to let everyone know how your family had this project, had this property for many years, and some of the things that were important to you in developing it and what you were looking for.
As I stated before, Arrow was to be a legacy building for us, and you're talking about the location. It's prominently located steps away from 3 Broadway theaters, as well as very close to the 6th Avenue corridor, which houses some of the largest corporations in the country. We had owned the property for many years, but we felt the timing for construction was right. We only developed one project at a time, and currently we were not developing anything. And about the same time, there were some very large condominiums going up in the 57th Street area, which was called Millionaires Row. And we felt the need for a rental, a luxury rental was there as opposed to a condominium. So all of that kind of played into why we did it and what the timing was.
Yeah. So the site is very unique in that it is a mid-block site. However, it goes from street to street. So it goes from 52nd Street to the south to 53rd Street to the north. It's a U-shaped site that envelops or surrounds one of the historic theaters, the August Wilson Theater. And also because it's a mid-block location, it has some neighbors which represented interesting issues to deal with. To the east was a very tall office building, which had lot line windows that came up right up to the site. The dimension of the site along the street was interesting because it was over 250 feet in length, and essentially taking up the entire mid-block portion of the lot. So the way that the zoning works in New York and the opportunities that we had here was for one building, which is very, very basic and simple, which you see here in this slide, which would have been a building that went from lot line to lot line, filling the site, and with a minimal amount of setbacks along the street line here, which would have resulted in a building with essentially either north or south views. Very, very little view to the east, and some views to the west, but very, very limited as well. And I think that was one of the things also, Hillary, that was very important in our conversation about, how to make a building where we could really take advantage of the dimensions of the lot and to create a building which had multiple views in many, many different directions. And in addition to that, because of the fact that it is in this historic district where air rights from the historic theaters can be transferred to development parcels within it, we were able to change the configuration of the building, add square footage to the building as well, in order to create a building which had views that were essentially all around 360 degrees, and not interfering with any of our neighbors' windows, and not having to deal with issues between tall buildings. Some of the issues that we did encounter on this site as well was the fact that West 53rd Street is not only a dense city street above grade, but below grade has multiple levels of subway tunnels that run east-west and also branch north and south. One of the tunnels did run across the site and then did limit the development potential of the site on the northwest corner. Views were very important to create a rental product that was going to compete with the luxury condominium market there. We wanted to do things that would be very, very special for this building. And what we began to explore is ways to sculpt the building and to reshape it from the pure rectangle in order to create additional views from various levels within the building. Because even though it's 62 stories in height, it is surrounded, it's very, very dense with other tall buildings around it. So we wanted to shape that building in a number of different ways to the east that you see here, also to the north, again, that we began to move the building. And we carried this idea literally around four sides of the tower. And what that allowed us to do was to create something which is one of the signatures of residential buildings, is to provide open space within certain apartments. And as it turned out, of course, this building was designed before COVID, but it became something which was even more desirable, that people could have their own private space. So private spaces were important, but communal spaces were important as well. And the podium, which we'll talk about next, actually gave us even more opportunity to provide additional open space that would be used by the residents of the building. So all of this then led us to a solution where we wanted to refine and sort of slim down or trim all of these elements and to put it into a formal structure which could express all of these moves in very, very unique ways, but do it in a much tighter kind of skin. So the base of the building, which I mentioned before, which we call the podium, was interesting and a very, very important element in New York City, especially in Midtown Manhattan, where the streetscape and the value of a retail at grade retail is very, very important to owners of buildings. And because we had such a long dimension here of over 250 feet, we maintained that street wall presence by this base. But within that base, created the opportunity for all of the amenities, or almost all of the amenities, that we would be providing in multiple levels within that. So we have outdoor pools, we have an outdoor pool up on the roof, but here we have an indoor pool, and we have a number of different open spaces that you can see here that also then ascend 4 levels up to the top of the podium here. Each one treated a little bit differently and provided access to different amenity spaces within the building on each level. The other thing that I think was very, very important and an attribute of this type of formal approach was that on 53rd Street, which is the north side of the building, the fact that the tower sets back over 30 feet away from its side neighbors created a lot of sunlight that could come down onto the street, onto 53rd Street. So thereby enhancing the experience or in the environment at the street level. The building does not create a very large shadow. The shadows move, of course, in New York City and everywhere else they move. But the fact that there's large openings on the side brought so much sunlight to the street was very important to us. And it also gave us the opportunity not to have excessively tall lot line walls, which you can see here. This is the building has got windows and views on all 4 sides, and so we had greater flexibility in the design of the units and the layouts of the tower. And you can see that here. So on the lower floors where there were smaller units, The layouts were very efficient. The moves that we made with the massing did not in any way infringe upon the layouts of the units. So they were very marketable from that standpoint, and they offered a lot of opportunity for corner apartments with multiple views. Again, this whole idea of almost like creating a bay window was very, very important to us here. And as this other floor plan shows here, it shows some of the examples of where we were able to envelop or create then a series of outdoor spaces that would work very well and kind of work with the form and the massing of the building, but also really work well with the interior layout of the apartments. So how did we put this all together in this and creating this facade was an interesting kind of exercise, because the facade of the building, of course, has to respond to all of these issues: wind, movement, seismic, thermal. What kind of materials are there? What's the performance, and also functionally, how does it all come together? And so we came up with this idea, which really was generated from the kind of program, the creation of these outdoor spaces and bay windows, to create a facade that actually was two layers. An outer layer, which is metal, formed metal panels, and with an 18-inch projection from the glass, which we call fenders, and a series of vertical pilasters that give the building kind of a syncopation and a rhythm, but not one that is purely stacked or like a brick pattern, but something that really worked differently. Now here you see what's going on with the facade, and actually I will tell you here as well that the number of components that we put together here was only 7. So combining these 7 modules, we were able to make the building move in a number of different ways. On the left, what you notice is that in all 3 of these diagrams, the glass is stationary, the glass is vertical, so that inner layer is static, but the outer layer increases and decreases in order to work with whatever the program was, whether it had to be a larger apartment or the creation of a terrace, or some element that was important to the design of the building. On the right, you see actually a slight variation of that, where the glass wall actually moves differently. So where we needed more space within an apartment or a group of apartments, we were able to step out and step closer to this outer metallic layer, and do it in a number of different ways, whether like on the lower floors where we were setting back, or the upper floors where we were moving out. It was a very, very useful tool to match the program with the design of the building and the massing of the building. So here you can see, some examples of what I'm talking about. So this 18-inch fender wrapping around, but then it becomes an element that actually moves out to create open spaces, within the apartments, and you can see that here on this side of the building. This happens to be the east side of the building, and also then where it moves out again to create different terraces with different views, and all done with these 7 modules that repeat and turn. We were also very fortunate that we were able to incorporate curved glass on the inner layer, as well as the outer layer for the balconies, so that also preserved that kind of clean, formal appearance of the building. Here you see some examples of it during construction. It's a curtain wall system, so it was assembled and unitized curtain wall system that was installed from the floor, which saved a tremendous amount of money in terms of the installation. Also made the installation go much smoother. And once the panels were set in place, there was never a reason to go back out on the outer layer of the building or drop down a scaffolding or anything to do any work there that was waterproof and enclosed. And so these fenders that I talked about actually had many positive attributes. One was, of course, it created a shading device on the outside of the building to reduce some of the solar glare, but also worked in a positive way to reflect light that was falling on the top surface actually back into the apartment. So making them even brighter, but not with the direct sun. So it was an interesting experience that we had there. And the other thing that, because we were able to move the outer layer and inner layer, we were able to actually be able, on the lower levels near the podium, to be able to actually occupy that space. So there are walkways around the lowest parts of the building where you're actually in between, and one can actually experience that and walk around or walk through these two layers. Now, the other thing that is really very important, I think, in urban multifamily buildings is this creation of community, and thinking about the importance of these spaces and how to really enhance them was something that also Algin Management and Hillary and her family wanted to do here. You know, again, for partially, I think it was, you know, for marketing reasons, which is it's very important to have the best amenities, but also because of the importance of creating a community. These spaces actually are available to all of the residents of the building. The other thing that I think was very fortunate, and especially with where we are now today, is that it allowed people to occupy different areas. Not everyone in the building was coming to one particular floor in the building. None of these amenities are in basements. They all have access to outdoor space, which is a really great attribute of being able to take this approach and giving people, I think, flexibility and choice. Hillary, did you want to say anything else about the amenities?
Well, having the podium, as you can see in this diagram, really allowed for a lot of great things. So you have 3 levels of common spaces or community spaces / amenities, and all of them have windows. So you have 2 lounges, you have an indoor pool with a 50-foot pool that also has double height windows. You have a game room, and then it wraps around on the other side. In addition to which, you had the terraces, which you mentioned during COVID was particularly important for as people were living and working from home and they wanted to get outdoors. You touched a little on a couple of the amenities, but I'm just going to list them just to give everybody an idea of how expansive they were. We had outdoor spaces with grilling facilities, 3-story indoor basketball court with a terrace, 50-foot pool, rooftop pool with a wraparound terrace, an Epicurean kitchen, state-of-the-art fitness facility with a separate yoga and Pilates room, and 3 residential lounges and golf simulation room. And I'm pretty sure I'm leaving some out, but that gives you an idea of how expansive it was.
And I think the next slide also shows some of the larger terraces there on the right. Shows that main terrace, which is opening to a really great fitness area, and also some of the other lounges down there. So you've got really great opportunity to utilize these spaces in a way that every surface, in a sense, brings some kind of delight, some kind of usability, some importance to the building. There's nothing here that was taken for granted. We tried to get the most that we could out of every surface, roof levels, walkways, and so on and so forth. And even at the very top of the building, you see here this pool that's at the 62nd floor with just, magnificent views, a great place to hang out. There's also another lounge at this level, but, it's something which is great. But it's also, for us, the thinking about how to create a community and bring people together and to be able to provide all this is really, I think, in a communal sense, a great attribute of the project. And the building, which is, I said, 62 stories, it's something which sometimes is amazing how in a very high density environment, even tall buildings can, kind of get lost, or they're in this milieu of these other tall buildings. But this building has seemed to have stood out even amongst all of the great super talls that were built around it. And within the area, it's a very, very visible and important icon in the skyline of Midtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John and Hillary. Our next presentation is on Atrio North Tower, located in Bogota. Phase 1 of this project has added a significant amount of office space to central Bogota, while incorporating into the district through a porous and graceful relationship with the street level, encouraging public use. Najib Neem Arango, CEO of Grupo A, and Simon Smithson, partner at Roger Stirk Harbor and Partners, will now present.
Hello, I'm Simon Smithson, and I'm going to talk about the project called Atrio. Atrio is located in Bogota, Colombia. Initially, I thought this might be the first time a project from Bogota has been presented to the conference, but in fact, I discovered there was a Council of Tall Buildings conference in Bogota back in 1973. In Bogota, there was a mini boom of construction of high-rise buildings, 50s, 60s, 70s, all of which are clustered within walking distance of our site. And this is our site. This is an image of Bogota in 1973, around the time of the conference, as I said. Colombia is unusual that it has Atlantic and a Pacific coast. Bogota is some 350 kilometers inland. It sits at the foot of the eastern Cordillera of the Andes, at 2,644 meters above sea level. It's actually higher than any European ski resort. And due to this elevation, it has a moderate climate despite its proximity to the equator. As you would expect, given its adjacency to the mountains, it's in a seismic area. And this drawing very beautifully describes. It also sits on the edge of an old lake bed, which effectively means that the building is founded on mud and you have to go down very deep to hit the bedrock. To just summarize that, Bogota is a gridded city, largely low rise, a city where brick is the dominant material, a city where, as I mentioned, the streets are incredibly active, not the least with the informal commerce, which occupies such an important role in the economy. And it's all these factors which in essence describe the context of the project, which have shaped the shape of the tower. And I plan to speak to each of these determinants in kind of descending order at the various scales, starting with the biggest, the mountains, touching on the scale and the grain of the city, describing the character of the immediate neighborhoods, the dominance of the city grid, and finally returning to the character of the cityscape. So, talking about context, I'd like to talk a little bit about the skyline. As you can see from this series of early sketches, the first exploration was to examine how to conceive of a tower set against this backdrop, the backdrop of the mountains. The city hugs the mountains and the ridgeline creates the skylines, and the Monasterio de Monserrate really defines its pinnacle. I mean, it's not the highest point, but symbolically it describes the pinnacle of this backdrop. And we took the view that any tower has to work with the mountains. I think the other point that's worth noting of that is there is a sort of referential character to the tower of the Monserrate, because Monserrate, in a sense, defines the kind of center point of the city. So by association, we are trying to reiterate that this tower, which sits in a district that's called the Centro Internacionales, is really the geographic, sits at the geographic center of the city. And I'll talk a little bit about that further later on. Working down scales from the mountains to the overall cityscape, Bogota is predominantly a low-rise city. And whilst, as I've already described, there is a cluster of tall buildings in and around the center or in and around the site, the city has a great homogeneity, and basically it has kind of uniform height as it works its way out, as you can see from this spectacular view from the top of Tower North. And therefore we felt that any tower should acknowledge, one hand, as I say, the mountains, but on the other hand, it should acknowledge the dominant scale of the surrounding cityscape. So the tapering of the base of the tower, what we on the team we kind of call the belly of the tower, relates to that scale of the adjoining cityscape, and this height equates to around 8 stories, which is the average height of the buildings as the edge of the city abuts the mountain, because it raises the average height raises very slightly as it washes up against the mountain range. The site is part of a neighborhood or district that is called the Centro Internacional. This was built out in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was envisaged as a kind of modern use, grade-separated, business-oriented city center. Now, the site was part of the original master plan for the Centro Internacional, but this particular portion of the site, which sort of sits at the western edge of Centro Internacional, was never built out. But the master plan imposed a number of very non-negotiable constraints on what we could build on the site. These rules determined where we could build, how high we could build. The rules also determined the form of the building, interestingly enough, that it was a tower that was to be sat on a podium. So in essence, the master plan establishes a series of datum that have to be reconciled or reflected within the design of the tower on this site. First of all, the podium. Rather than a solid plinth, we conceive the plinth as a canopy, a glass canopy, which we set at the required datum. But in effect, instead of the space beneath that datum being occupied by a building, it encloses a space, an open space. Beneath the canopy, we then retain the two ground levels. At the ground level, it's public space, and that's allowed to run through across the whole site, whilst the upper level, which was historically conceived as the pedestrian level, that's occupied by lobbies. So if you like, the public space takes the place of cars and is at ground level, and this upper level, which was originally just for pedestrian, is what you might consider kind of private public space, which is the public space that belongs to the tower, the lobby to the tower. As I've already intimated, Bogota is a gridded city, and as it now stands, it's a kind of tapestry of neighborhoods that have been built up over years, and each expansion of the city, each new district, from the so-called colonial center to the most recent expansions, are all in some form or other interpretations or reinterpretations of the grid. Each iteration, to some degree, reflecting the predominant development criteria or the aspirations of the area in which the expansion was built. Now, as you can see from these photographs, whilst the street grid in this particular portion of the city is somewhat fractured, the buildings of the Centro Internacional hold to this north-south, east-west orientation, albeit in a kind of modernist idiom. Now, as I've said, the site for Atria was part of the overall master plan for Centro Internacional, but was never completed. So the site, as we found it, therefore exposes the raw, unfinished edge of this 1970s, ended in 1970s development, and this unfinished edge of a split level city, which, as I say, in current times, the preference is to move away from. So the challenges for us were how to resolve all of these things elegantly within the site. Now, the pedestrian plaza sits in the middle of this particular piece of Centro Nacional, and in fact, which is part of our site is kind of L-shaped, has remained stranded. It's a dead end with no connections westward, a space where strangely, people really rarely enter. There's no route through, there's no reason to go. And as I say, it's an uncomfortable space, and I'll explain a little bit why so later on in my presentation. But the assumption of the master plan must have been that the formal assembly of buildings arranged around this square plaza would be completed by a fourth building on our site. But of course that never took place. And our concern that even with this composition, it's such a formal composition, it effectively kills the space forever. If we would add a fourth building that completed that composition, the space would remain, I think, dead forever. Because we wanted to avoid what I think is the typical problem of buildings arranged thus around a space. The buildings dominate the space to such an extent that it condemns the space to one that is effectively foreground, as opposed to what I would call active ground. So, as I say, the challenges of this composition, I think, are well illustrated in the photographs, and are really brought home to you when you visit the site, because it's a space that you really are hesitant to use. It is dominated by the surrounding buildings, and when you go out there, you almost feel, I almost say, go as far as saying you kind of feel completely exposed to the view of those in the buildings. So it's for a variety of reasons, as you can see in this photo, it's a very unattractive space. And in a sense, a key move for us was breaking this formality by rotating the buildings by 45 degrees. And in this one simple move, it turned out to be very key, because it facilitated the flow of people to and through the space. It united all the public spaces, which, as conceived in the master plan, were kind of fragmented into a series of independent, disconnected plaza or plazaletas. And so in rotating, it allows us to make the whole site into one space like the people flows around and through the buildings. As I say, it breaks up the formality and rigidity of the composition. And it also gives the towers many faces, which is particularly useful because particularly in Tower South, which will be multi-use, there's many different tenants which require many different points of access. It surprisingly opened up some spectacular views from the public spaces, so you get these great vistas between the buildings, our buildings and the adjacent buildings. And finally, it opens up more views of the mountains from the offices themselves. And in a way, there's a sort of slight strange characteristic in Bogota. The buildings tend to look away from the mountains, and yet the mountains is, if you like, the most extraordinary view you can imagine. So finally, having worked our way down the building, coming down to ground plane, as I've said, Bogota has an amazingly vibrant street life, but public space is at a premium. And I think that's one of the reasons why the most vibrant kind of entertainment districts have been pedestrianised, because there is no other open space than the streets generally. I mean, there's some great parks, but they're few and far between. And as I mentioned at the outset, like many cities in the region, the streets are active in part because of there's so much informal commerce which takes place in the streets. And we really wanted to have create a project which captured this spirit of the public life that takes place in the public realm. And perhaps the most remarkable manifestation of this active street life is the Bicycle Sunday, an event instigated by the then Mayor Peñalosa, where many of the city's large thoroughfares are given over to pedal power. Najib, our client, who will talk to you shortly, really has been an ideal client for our SHP, because when he first came to us, he said, look, I want to build some buildings, and I want those to be good buildings. I may even want those to be great buildings. But more than anything else, I want to give to Bogota a great public space. And of course we said, well, that's great. You know, building is what we do, but we always try to conceive of buildings that contribute to a better city, to better public realm. Now, the problem is the site is big. You might say it's sort of in rounded terms, it's half a city block, but it's not that big. And you know, we kind of joked with Najib at the beginning, it's really not big enough. It's certainly not big enough to build a park. And yet it's larger than, say, just a plaza. And so it's an interesting scale. It's kind of in between the two. And as I say, I think what we've conceived of is something in which the public space kind of flows throughout the site, and in contrast to what the master plan conceived, which is a series of formal plaza and plazoletas. We've conceived of a space that flows around and between the buildings. But in order to maximize that and really create a public space of significance, we felt we had to minimize the footprint of the towers. And as you can see in these photographs, the towers actually only come to ground. It's only the lift cores and some columns that come to ground. And the rest of the space we've tried to release for public use or commercial use in association with the public space. In essence, allowing the city to flow to and through the site. So to conclude my portion of the talk, Najib emphasized that he wanted to create a public space of real quality. And I think for us, the great success of the project is not the towers, and dare I say that at a conference dedicated to towers, but it's the space that the tower or the tower creates. It's the public space that flows around the feet of the tall building. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Najib. Najib.
El haber tenido la oportunidad de desarrollar un proyecto en el centro de la ciudad de Bogotá, en un terreno de más de 20.000 metros, nos puso a soñar en un proyecto de envergadura, en un proyecto que hiciera un desarrollo no solamente arquitectónico, sino un desarrollo urbanístico. Fue así como me fui a hablar con varios arquitectos y tuve el gusto y el placer de juntarme con el equipo de Rogers en Londres. Ellos inmediatamente captaron la idea que yo conocía, la importancia para Rogers de lo que era el espacio público, pero que para mí era lo más importante en este proyecto. Bogotá adolece de espacios públicos, de sitios para que la gente pueda tener esparcimiento, para que se siente a leer, para que se siente a hablar. La importancia del espacio público es enorme y tiene algo de mucha importancia para mí, y es que en el espacio público todos somos iguales, no hay diferencias de estrato entre el 1, el 5, todas las personas somos lo mismo y todos podemos disfrutar de él de la misma manera. Así fue como hicimos el clic de inmediato y Rogers, la única pregunta que me hizo cuando me preguntó del proyecto fue cuándo salía el próximo vuelo para Colombia. A las pocas semanas su equipo y él personalmente estaban visitando a Bogotá. Estaban viendo cómo era el urbanismo y qué clase de proyecto se podía hacer. Después de eso, tuvimos el gusto de juntarnos con varias empresas en la parte estructural, en la parte de construcción, en la parte de revisoría fiscal, en la parte de programación. Y todas aquellas empresas y todas aquellas personas que venían de países desarrollados tenían su contraparte o su asociado en Colombia. Eso es muy importante, haber podido tener esa dinámica de traer tecnología del exterior para ponerla a funcionar con las conocimientos que tenemos nosotros en Colombia y poderla poner en funcionamiento para el bien de este proyecto. El resultado ha sido maravilloso. Ahora, ¿cómo lo hicimos? A través de unos talleres que hacíamos cada 8, cada 10 semanas, tanto en Londres como en Colombia, como en Bogotá. Hacíamos talleres en donde nos dedicábamos a hablar de las fachadas, de hablar del sistema de incendios, hablar de lo que podrían ser los ascensores, cómo sería el espacio público, cómo sería el vivir internamente en el edificio. Fueron talleres que se iban haciendo a medida que iba pasando el tiempo, con el fin de ir decidiendo cómo funcionaban las cosas. Mi participación y la participación con que la exigencia de Rogers nos dejaba a nosotros estar en ella era maravillosa. Siempre pudimos decir lo que pensábamos, siempre podíamos aportar y siempre podíamos recibir las buenas pensamientos que tenía esta empresa para nosotros. Así fue como desarrollamos este proyecto y hoy tenemos la fortuna de poder tener para Bogotá uno de los edificios seguramente mejor construidos en todo sentido, para beneficio de las empresas y para el disfrute de la ciudadanía en Bogotá al pasar por ahí y poder participar del espacio público, generoso, amable y sencillo que se ve debajo del edificio atrio.
Thank you, Najib and Simon. Next up is 5 Jumeirah Village, Dubai. Within its serrated cylindrical form, each apartment in this tower incorporates an extensive outdoor terrace, including a pool, to bring the outdoors indoors. Nabil Akiki, CEO of 5 Development LLC, and Farada Farang, Senior Design Manager at Atkins, will now present.
Hi, my name is Nabil Akiki. I'm the CEO of 5 Real Estate Development. So we will take you through this amazing project that we are very proud of. It's 5 at Jumeirah Village, and the cooperation with Atkins, it was really amazing. So we had the concept design has been done by me, and then the full detailing, the full development of the design has been done with Atkins. So Frida from Atkins, I'll pass the word for you, so you introduce yourself and the company and the project.
Sure. Thanks, Nabil. So Farida Farag, a senior architect and urban designer with a little over 7 years of hands-on experience in design. All my career's experience has been with Atkins, an international top-tier British consultancy firm where I joined in 2014. To everyone's surprise, 5 Jumeirah Village is the first project I've undertaken in my career as an architect. And as we go through the slides, we'll be telling you our design journey.
Okay, so from the first slide and this view, it's very clear that the green and the water did not stop at the ground floor level, but the idea was to just bring the green climbing up on the building and the water as well. So this is just an impression of the visual to see the concept, how it has been like the vision of the concept. So the green did not stop at the ground floor, but it is climbing up on the building. So the concept, how it was the challenge, how to bring the green space, the outdoor space, and the water features, the water swimming pools into the building, into a vertical high building. And this slide with the following slide, they were the first concept design that I have thought of. So what brought this idea to reality is that the DCR of the plot was G plus unlimited. So when I heard that it's G plus unlimited, even before then we bought the plot, so I was discussing with my partners that this unlimited height will have a great potential to do something unique and special. So even on the meeting table of the master developer, I was already sketching the possibility how to create something unique in a G plus unlimited height. So this little model on the left and on the right, of course, was the first trial which happened within 24 hours after buying the land, because I wanted to express the thoughts of how we can, through a certain dynamic form and revolving wings. As you can see at the left side, there are 4 wings, which they have developed later into 3 wings. But the idea is to take the wings and rotate them around with a certain angle, so the roof of the apartment below will become the outdoor space, the garden and the swimming pool of the upper apartment.
So the tower is a vertical 5-star serviced apartment hotel, which offers a unique social living environment in the way it incorporates both the indoor and the outdoor space. The sky gardens, as you see throughout the presentation, are carved of the building's form, and they create the key feature within the tower. It's located within the residential villa community of Dubai's Jumeirah Village Circle, and the project's about 254 serviced apartments with their own private sky gardens, 247 hotel guest rooms, with a VUA of about 160,000. And just to give you a sense of scale, 7 square feet of garden for every square foot of land, which is quite inventive for a high-rise tower. And then obviously the swimming pools are equivalent to a total surface area of 2 acres, which equates to a little over a size of 1 football pitch. Just to give you some context, so Dubai is situated in the Arabian Gulf Coast of the United Arab Emirates. It's roughly at the sea level. The emirate shares border with Abu Dhabi in the south. Now, Dubai is the most populous city in the emirate within the United Arab Emirates, and it's the second largest emirate by the territorial size after the capital, which is Abu Dhabi. The JVC community is strategically and conveniently located within the most accessible areas of the city, and it's designed to embody a vision of a self-contained environment for residents. So the overall master plan is designed to offer a sense of symmetry through a radial pattern, which is in this area right here, with streets that end up into a community center. The project plot is located on a street behind the village's central core. 5 Jumeirah Village's premium position, it offers unrivaled proximity to the Emirates' most popular destinations, as you can see, and within almost 20 minutes. So for those of you who haven't been to Dubai, let me tell you, it's quite hot. It's approximately hot for 50% of the year, if not more. So the estimated outdoor thermal sensation is approximately a function of air temperature, wind speed, solar radiation, and obviously humidity. As such, the exposure to direct solar radiation in the UAE can cause a major discomfort, which elevates the heat to about 77%. Obviously, you can improve the thermal comfort through the design of microclimate considerations with the use of appropriate form configuration that increases your shading levels, bringing it down to 49%. If you couple that with elevated air movement, you would bring it down even more to 39%. So just through design, we can bring down the thermal heat to about 38%. Just keep this in mind while we're taking you through our design journey in the upcoming slides.
This interesting slide, actually, it's really nice to see the contrast between the left sided picture with the green texture and the organic architecture, which is horizontal, and then the right image, which is more bluish color-wise, less green, and a lot of density. However, we could not achieve to have the picture of the left one if we are not in a high-rise building. So what I'm trying to say is that when you are in a high-rise building or in a tall building, you have the view, which is the benefit that you cannot have on a low-level villa, or let's call it organic architecture, which is spreading horizontally. So the challenge of the concept and the success of the concept, in our opinion, is that it could combine both benefits of both worlds. From the left picture, which is the green architecture, where the texture is blended between the greenery and the livable space, but where you are missing the view from there, because maximum you can have the view of your neighbor's garden. So to bring it to a tall building, that texture, and have the view at the same time of the outdoor space and the green and the water features and the swimming pools, this is like combining the best of both worlds.
So just to add to Nabil's point, villas have their own outdoor space, a sense of community. They're heavy on outdoor interaction, while high-rise apartments lack that sense of community and they're disconnected. 5 is a sweet spot between the low-rise living and the high-rise living. The sky gardens have the potential to allow for the convenient and informal outdoor interaction that you'll see throughout the visuals in the next slides. So what we've essentially managed to create is a vertical neighborhood, which is a network of communities within the sky. By so, you're expanding the open space in high rises. We've got approximately 165 terraces of open spaces, which equivalent to 7 times the plot size. So the tower offers a unique social living environment through its smart way of integrating both the indoor and the outdoor. And obviously, it's the best of both worlds. So we'll run you quickly through the design process. So the design process started with exploring various alternatives for the plan configuration and the floor plan rotation, as Nabil mentioned earlier. Due to the harsh environment Dubai and the hot climate, a parametric design methodology was innovated to develop and assess the performance of these sky gardens against the environmental factors. So we started off the design with defining the main design goals into the main following 4 factors to create a comfortable outdoor living space. One was air movement, second was daylight factor, third is solar gain, and the last is shading the sky garden for about 85% of the day. To achieve these design factors, we ran through many options that have been experimented by changing the floor plan shape as the only parameter that configures the building mass. Along the way, we decided to introduce another design parameter, which is the rotation angle of the typical floor plans. So we've tested 4 shapes, starting off with the static cross-form plan, then the rotated cross-form plan, tri-star, and fan-shaped. 2 rotation angles have been tested for the previous mentioned plan. We've tested 22.5 degrees and 30 degrees. And these 2 main parameters generated the 7 different configurations of the tower. All 7 have been tested environmentally through a series of parametric integrated softwares and spatially to result in the selected volume of the sky garden. Parametric design tools were developed to investigate the geometry of the outdoor space. As I mentioned, there was an optimization algorithm used to identify optimum settings to maximize the availability of the prevailing wind, the building periphery, and also meeting the contrasting needs of self-shading and daylight. We'll run you through these quickly. So the building's innovative form and adapted typology significantly reduced the cooling load by creating a comfortable outdoor microclimate. This was achieved by minimizing the direct sunlight on the terraces areas through the self-shading as demonstrated in the far right. As you can see, the blue areas, almost all the sky gardens are almost 85% self-shaded. We've also managed to minimize the solar radiation on the building envelope, again, as you can see in the far right. We've maximized the use of prevailing wind, as you can see on the far right. And more importantly, we've admitted the diffused daylight while blocking direct sunlight from the outdoor and indoor spaces. As demonstrated on the right, the floor plan configuration is designed to maximize the amount of natural light available through the interior. And as you can see, only the back spaces has got that blue shade, which is where the kitchen, the stores are. All the apartments are up front. Finally, the selected tower configuration was the one that achieved the best results for the predefined design factors achieved through spatial proportions of the sky gardens. Configuration grants the availability of sufficient daylight, all living spaces, prevailing wind, keeping a significant air movement, enhancing the thermal contour. With this analytical approach, we've succeeded in carving out the building of the external environmental forces. This innovative design methodology obviously could be tailored to handle different design parameters, either environmental, functional, spatial, or even social, in a way that increases the user's comfort level, well-being, and increases the level of efficiency, as Nabil mentioned earlier on.
This is one of the outdoor terraces and garden. You can see that the swimming pool is semi-sunken and also it's elevated at the same time. But even though if it's elevated, still the height above this and the proportion of the sky that you can see from the outdoor space is really you feel that you are in a garden of a villa, a suspended villa, with this beautiful view of at the horizon that you can see. Even we intended to put chairs at the edge in the water, so you have the feeling that you are at the ground floor, but at the same time it is elevated. This is the first slide. Again, the nature is welcome to the building. it's a tall building, yes, but it's not with a curtain wall where it's enclosing the people behind the curtain walls, and they can only see. Here they can see, but at the same time, they can live the outdoor space, they can live the nature, they can walk on a green grass, natural one, as Farida mentioned, on earth, and at the same time swimming in a swimming pool, proper swimming pool, and enjoy the views. This is one of my really favorite picture, because it's exactly illustrating the first image that we tried to show in a sketch. That's the low architecture, or let's say the organic horizontal architecture on the left side, which you can see the horizon at the horizon there, that there are high-rise buildings, tall buildings, but you see the difference in the texture and in the architecture and in the living space. So you are living behind these curtain walls or walls there. Within the villas, you are living immersed with the water, with the green, and so on. And on the right side is the 5 Jumeirah village, which is combining both architecture in the best manner, that you have the views, at the same time you have the outdoor space.
We'll run you quickly through the configuration. So the form, because if it's a cylindrical form, is inherently non-directional. So the absence of overshading from other neighboring buildings, given the tone test that Nabil just shared with you, leaves the building overexposed to direct radiation. As such, the cylindrical form minimizes the capture of solar radiation. So the sky terraces, as we mentioned, are carved out of the building's form and therefore provide self-shading and develop a stack effect, and as well as developing this heightened terrace spaces as the 6.2 meters that we've demonstrated in the previous slides. Also note the radial grading system allows for a parallel approach for both architectural planning and structural systems. So the radial column alignment allows for optimal space planning with flexibility while simultaneously absorbing the presence of the structural columns, so you don't feel them as obstacles within your unit and apartment. And as demonstrated in this partial section, the height of these gardens was considered carefully so that the area is not fully enclosed, nor does it expose your inner spaces.
It's a 5-star hotel, as we mentioned at the beginning. However, all the apartments are serviced apartments, and these serviced and hotel apartments, they have the choice, the flexibility of using them. The owners, they can use them as individual for themselves. They can lease them on a long lease term basis, or they can put them also as part of the hotel pool, and they can get the revenue of the hotel as well. That's again the same illustration with the real picture taken from outside for the same 2-bedroom apartment. So you can see the ample space, the luxury feel, not only because of the outdoor space, but really the view from there is amazing. And within 1 month only, and the second month, our occupancy went to 90%. And this is abnormal. There is no hotel in the world that has been occupied for 90% within the first and the second month. That's the 1-bedroom apartment. Again, the same ratio of the indoor-outdoor space. It has the view as well. It has the water feature. It has a jacuzzi, and the same level of luxury. It's available. It doesn't matter the size of the unit, if it's 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom, or even a single unit for the hotel rooms. That's, I think, you mentioned at the beginning, Frida, and the ratio between the area of the land. And usually the unfortunate situation is that always when we construct a land, we are losing immediately the green space. Whatever we do in the building, it's a loss for the green space, for the green areas. And with this concept, we had the chance to gain 7 times more gardens and greens than the area of the plot. So we did not lose, we gain outdoor space and gardens areas. These are the hotel rooms. Again, even the bathrooms, they have a view. The hotel rooms, they have view. And with this beautiful long periphery of the circle, which is a very simple form, but it turned out that each and every piece of the whole property has its own view, and this is due to the elongated periphery of the circle. Again, you can see from here, also from the bathroom. The bathroom is fully glazed, and it doesn't matter in which piece of the development you are. You have the same panoramic view all over the places and all over Dubai. So from inception on the left, that was the render, and we were, I think, successful, Frida, to bring it to a reality which is equally nice like the render.
Another one from inception to completion, as you can see. So that's the sky garden that you've seen throughout the presentation. Again, a literal translation of it, and you can see it's a successful concept that's been fully operational.
So awards, yes, we are happy. We are proud that we have, I think, around 32 awards so far. But it's really important for us that this application that we are doing is the first award that we are applying after the completion of the building. We are really happy that this concept has been appreciated so far, and we have collected 32 awards, regional and global. But we are really looking with a positive chance to see if, because after completion, it's important to revalidate all the efforts that have been put, not only through the design but also through the construction, and the end product should really reveal the value of all the concept design and the design development that we have discussed. So it would be really great, and we're looking for this opportunity in a very positive manner. I think the architecture is one side of the story, and the operation is another side of the story, that both they complete each other's. What's happening in this building, and how people they are enjoying their life, and how the operation has turned to be in a place in Dubai, which is Jumeirah Village Circle. It's not really at the beach side where the vibe is already high. It is really in a quiet area, but the spirit, the positive energy that this building has created, which is completed by the operation team and the hotel, the way how we operate, and the people how they enjoy and live. For me, it's like a complete dream to see that building alive, and with the same vibe that I have imagined enjoying an outdoor time with families or with friends, at the same time being in an urban place, in a tall building, and enjoying the views at the same time.
I think the success of the project encourages developers, architects, and engineers to innovate similar concepts that contribute to creating higher quality built environment. That obviously 5 is a tribute to the city of first, which is the city of Dubai. Okay, so we simply want to say thank you for your time, and thank you for your recognition of the efforts and the innovative thinking, and we look forward to meeting with you in person in the near future.
Thank you, Frida. Thank you all for your time, and we look forward to see you in 5, not only in Dubai. You're most welcome anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabil and Farida. Our next presentation is on Lisa Soho, located in Beijing and presented by Helen Huang, Vice President of Soho China, and Satoshi Ohashi, Director of Zaha Hadid Architects. Here, a dramatic atrium extends nearly 200 meters through the full height of the building, born out of the fact that a new subway line cuts diagonally through the middle of the site. Now to Helen and Satoshi.
Dear jury, ladies and gentlemen, this is Helen Huang, Vice President of Soho China. It's my greatest honor to introduce Lisa Soho on behalf of Soho China. First, let me briefly introduce Soho China. Soho China was founded in 1995 by Chairman Han Shiyi and CEO Zhang Xin. Soho China focuses on developing and holding high-profile branded commercial properties in Beijing and Shanghai. As the largest prime office developer in Beijing and Shanghai, Soho China developed commercial property of 54 million square feet. Soho China has formed a strong strategic partnership with Zaha Hadid Architects, with 4 mega projects built in Beijing and Shanghai. They are Galaxy Soho, Wangjing Soho, and Sky Soho and Lisa Soho. Lisa Soho is located between the 2nd Ring Road and the 3rd Ring Road in the southwest of Beijing, 5 kilometers away from the financial street, close to Beijing New Airport City Terminal. Beijing Lisa Financial Business District, where Lisa Soho is located, is an emerging financial hub. Presently, it strives to become Beijing's 2nd financial street. Lisa Soho has total GFA of nearly 170,000 square meters. Major is office area. At present, it has attracted many high-tech and financial enterprises, with a rental rate of nearly 70%. In the design stage, Lisa Soho has applied a lot of sustainable concepts and green building technologies, including sustainable development site, water conservation, energy saving, material and resource reduction, and improvement of indoor environment quality. In the operation stage, it will continue to apply the concept of sustainable development and use BIM Smart Operation Management System for property management, providing comfortable space and protecting the environment. Let's take a look at a video about Lisa Soho.
Lisa Soho is a commercial office complex located in Lisa Financial Business District in Fengtai, Beijing, with a total area of 173,753 square meters. 45 floors above ground, 4 floors underground. This project is one of the last architecture work independently designed by the late world-renowned architect and the winner of Pritzker Prize, Zaha Hadid. From planning to completion, it took 6 years before Lisa Soho was completed. It's a project of Soho China with the highest standard and investment. It has achieved LEED CS Gold certification. The DNA resembled double helix structure of Lisa Soho ingeniously resolves the influence of the subway lines underneath which bisects the site, and is designed into twisting and streamlined twin towers. Nearly 200 meters high, it has the world's tallest atrium, enclosed by 2 towers and spirals upward to the sky. The atrium passes through all floors, creating an astonishing space experience. The exterior of the building has the image of the eye in the night sky. The facade is designed as a fish-scale curtain wall, which combines the 2 towers into one. Its modern architectural design demonstrates the characteristics of the era with innovative spirits.
That is all my presentation. Now, let me invite our distinguished partner, Mr. Satoshi Ohashi, Director from Zaha Hadid Architects, to introduce the design of Lisa Soho. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Helen. On behalf of Zaha Hadid Architects, it gives me great pleasure to have this opportunity to introduce to you our Lisa Soho project. Firstly, I'd like to thank the CTBUH committee and jury for our selection. The Lisa Soho project is a very, very special project as it really responds to the site conditions, the city, Beijing, as well as the surrounding environmental conditions and as well as, of course, the requirement and needs of the client. As you know, Beijing is organized as a series of ring roads, second, third, fourth, and beyond. This project is located in the southwest part of the city in the new financial Fangtai district. This will become the center of the financial district and anchor the crossing between the two new subway lines, the metro station, metro lines, line 14 and 16. And then across from our site, there will be the new Liza Terminal Center, which links directly the subway network and metro to the new Beijing Daxing International Airport. We have here showing some diagrams of the existing conditions of line 1416 and then the subway tunnel that bisects our site. The whole design is generated and conceived from these conditions. Here, trying to have accessibility from all directions, from public transportation and access to the office, the retail, as well as directly from the subway station. Of course, vehicular traffic that loops around the building, as well as access for bicycles, bicycle parking, and vehicular parking in the lower basement levels, B3, B4, and also the B2, B1 as retail. The fire truck access also creating a loop road and really generates the shape of the building and its offset of the tower geometry, as well as the need for the fire truck access and staging areas, as well as the green ratio on the site plan. Here's showing a diagram of how we generated the design based on the site condition, site response, cylindrical building that actually gently rises up, and also in the middle of the tower, which is the fattest, is generating the maximum depth of the office floor plates as requested by the client, and then the top of the building generating the minimum requirement of office depth for the tower. And then at the base of the building in the site plan, responding to the need for the fire, the green ratio, as well as the vehicular traffic to squeeze the building at the base. The overall design, here you can see this beautiful window that responds to the site and then looks back at the city beyond, and very elegant and beautiful system of facade that steps and much like a fish scaling that gently fades from stepping to smooth to express the atrium. Here the site plan, and looking from above, The lower levels, the B1 level, here showing the conditions, and B2 with direct link to the subway station, as well as future link underground link to linking the adjacent plots. And then the lower B3, B4 levels with the service tunnel and the MEP and parking requirements. At the ground level, the main lobby is compact and expresses the entrance, which underneath, of course, below is generated by the subway service tunnel. F2, the mezzanine level, which has because of the elevator cores having stacked elevators. And then again, as you rise up from the smaller floor plates, rising to the bigger floor plates, F10, F20, and F30. And then as you go up, F40. And then again, at the top of the building where there's the helipad and the BMU maintenance track and MEP equipment. The typical floor plan is very open, flexible to allow for different types of lease requirements. So it can be divided into smaller units and of course an open plan that really takes advantage of the panorama views of the city in all directions. And at the same time, when one comes off the lobby, every floor plate has a wow dynamic view of the atrium, creating value and easily to rent or lease spaces. Here, the overall site plan, as you look from above, the site plan rings echoing the shape of the building into the landscape. Of course, the elevations rising up 200 meters for the main building and 207 to the top of the helipad. Here showing overall section with the lower grade, below grade. You can see here, of course, the lower with parking, MEP and back of house, and then the retail or shopping that links at the B1, B2 levels and directly into the subway, and then a sunken courtyard, and then rising up to the upper levels in office floor plates that have double-decker elevators distributed between low zone and high zone elevators. Typical section, cross section. What was really important here is that we were able to design the building digitally and control parametrically and by controlling the overall geometry and the details also that would be used for fabrication of the whole facade and all the interior finishes. Here showing some of the elements of the facade systems, the exterior skin, the FS2, which is the atrium, and then of course the inner atrium facade system. System 1 here showing the exterior facade as a unitized system that is shifting and stepping, and then attached to the floor slabs, providing the office spaces. There's some very interesting details where the systems come together. Here, facade system 2, which is the outer skin of the atrium, which is flush with the facade system 1, the stepping system, and also the inner facade system 3. We developed the details, creating full-scale mock-ups. So here, a 3-story mock-up of a visual mock-up of the facade systems that all come together. And also here, facade system 3, which was facing the atrium, which was required to be using fiberglass system. The atrium, fire-rated glass. And then again, showing the high-low elevator system where there's in the lobby, there's a mezzanine, which allows for the passengers to enter at the ground level as well as the mezzanine level. Here, the section where there's drop off a walkway, and also there's a water feature or surface of water that is echoing the shape of the building at the ground level, as well as skylights that allow sunlight to enter the lower levels. And here, the overall view, the lobby, and then the wow atrium as you look upward, almost nearly 200-meter tall, the full height of the building, create the tallest atrium in the world. Here, as you take the escalators up, showing how the 3D model, the BIM models, and how it was used as an essential tool and organizational design process to convey the design to the factories, fabrication, as well as rationalizing the facade to make the geometry buildable and cost efficient. Here, looking at the atrium facades being rationalized. Of course, the structure, two halves, the towers with the cores and the slabs have been organized and optimized using an elliptical geometry, 8 arcs. And then the two structural halves come together as a series of 4 ring truss belts that tie the building together with the core and the structure and the perimeter columns. And then here, again, the truss bridges that connect, creating a unified and balanced structural system. Here are the structural beams. What's important also is a requirement by the client to make the project integrate green and sustainability concepts. We've received the LEED green, gold. And here again, how we rationalize facade systems. Each floor belt was made from curves, and curved or single curves or faceted. And of course, also the MEP systems, fully integrated with the whole project, with the structure, architecture, and overall program requirements. The atrium air conditioning, of course, is summer, the air goes up naturally, and there is smoke ventilation as well as natural ventilation that allows the air to be exhausted, as well as there's an integrated air filtration system that provides fresh air and filtered air for the whole tower. Facade rationalization, again, on the inner atrium side, and how we repeated this process to optimize and the building to make it more cost efficient, as well as for the quality of the construction. Here, this view looking back through the atrium. The FS2 system also was, again, optimized with the structure to make the structural system very elegant. The system hangs the floors, every 10 floors from the bridges, to allow the structure to be very thin and elegant and follow the geometry, and then hanging the glass panels. Here, FS1 also, the unitized system, all rationalized and then made and fabricated in the factory, and then each unit brought to the site and installed. Here, creating the overall effect. Again. Okay. And then the final result with a very exciting project, looking from outside as well as looking up in the atrium space. Again, some photos of during construction, here looking from above. The structure topping off, you can see looking eastward. Looking around from the southeast, and again from the southwest, looking down. The frame going up with the two symmetrical cores. And again, as you top off the building, the facade system, FS1 system, showing you the integration of the BIM model and the actual being constructed on the site. Those guys have a tough job. Here in the atrium, we open up the bottom of the atrium in a cone shape to allow opening up of the views from below, looking up, so that you have maximized the views. But also this was a strategy to allow us to adjust the final GFA area requirement. And then again, looking down, again, the same dynamic view. Looking up during construction. It's very exciting to go up these elevators during construction. And looking around from different views. Again, looking through the building. And again, the overall. And again, going up into the building. And again, we would very, very excited about this project, and we really hope you enjoy it also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen and Satoshi. For our final presentation in this session, we'll hear about Mackay Center, located in Xi'an. The two towers that comprise this project are connected by a tri-level sky bridge filled with restaurants, entertainment venues, and other public features, while the sky bridge itself helps to create a legible gateway to the city. Eugene Park, Senior Associate Vice President at Callison RTKL, and Hee Jun, Executive Vice President at Mackay Center, will now present.
Hello everyone, my name is He Xin. I'm the Vice President of the Mackay Investment Holding Group and the General Manager of the Mackay Center. CTBUH has reviewed the list of 2021 Best Tall Buildings Award of Excellence. Mackay Center was honored along with the other 10 best buildings. In this regard, as a witness of Mackay Center from scratch to excellence, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the judges and guests for their acknowledgement and admiration. So first of all, I would like to talk about what is Mackay. Mackay Group was established in 1993. We were a comprehensive commodity financial service provider that integrates bulk commodity trading, supply chain, financial services, future brokerage, trading market, industrial finance, and modern logistics. We were ranked 191 on top 500 Chinese enterprises in 2020, and number 46 on private enterprises, and number 1 in Xi'an. We were headquartered in Xi'an. The group has set up more than 20 operating agencies and offices in mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore, London, and other places, forming an international marketing network covering more than 20 countries and regions in 6 continents. Mackay has been focusing on bulk commodity trading. With 27 years of industry accumulation, Mackay Group has sufficient import resources of copper cathode with annual import trade of about 2 million tons and a trade volume of $10 billion US. The purchase amount of imported copper cathode accounts for 1/3 of overseas purchase amount of national copper cathode, taking a leading position in the industry. Mackay Investment Holding Group integrates industrial integration and urban operation and covers commercial, office, hotel, cultural tourism, and comprehensive property service and other industries. Its main projects include Mackay Center, Lafont Center, Midwest Inland Port Financial Town, Tencent Entrepreneurship and Innovation Town, Xi'an Andaz Hotel, and Mackay Logistic, and so on. Adhering to the principle of better work, better life, relying on top architectural quality and artistic taste, as well as strong commercial resource integration and operation ability to create urban landmark building and leading future commercial development of the city. Second of all, I would like to talk about the city of Xi'an and its importance to the Mackay. Xi'an is an ancient city, the ancient capital of 13 dynasties, one of the most important birthplace of Chinese civilization, the starting point of Silk Road, and also this is my hometown. Mackay takes root in Xi'an, develops toward the world, and fully combines Oriental philosophy and international vision. Let Xi'an seize the world, and also let the world understand Xi'an. The visionary of the Mackay Center is to use architecture to tell aesthetics, to combine the business and the life, to reshape the commercial value of the city, to create regional city landmark. Mica Center, as the business benchmark and external display window of Xi'an, integrates a single property high-end office building, an international 5-star Grand Hyatt hotel, and a Tsutaya bookstore. It stands out with top architectural quality and artistic taste, and refreshes the concept of high-end business office in Xi'an with the attitude of leading the trend of the times. Mica Center is also the first twin tower with all-steel structure in northwest China. The twin towers are connected by a sky bridge at a height of 100 meters. It is one of the most difficult buildings in China at present. It is designed by CRTKL, a famous American architectural design company, and it has become a regional landmark. It gathered the best minds in the world and 19 international institutions, and we created a great working space for the world's top 500 companies. We have the 10th 5-star Grand Hyatt Hotel in China, and also it's the first one in Northwest. We have a lot of luxury rooms and suites, conference and banquet hall, roof garden, and global restaurant in the air, and professional gym and spa. We include many facilities that can provide the best experience for all the business travelers that can gather in Xi'an, gathering in this Mica Center. For the office, we have many support commerce at the bottom of the Mica Center, such as Starbucks and Hot Pot and Food Court, Atlas Fitness Workshop, and Boutique Supermarket. And we're trying to create the quality life for everyone who can work here and provide them the best experience. We have a successful case of Mica Center during the operational period. On December 3rd, 2019, Xi'an Mica Metal International Group successfully issued 3.3 commercial complex rates products. The product design adopts the dual SPV structure of the Special Asset Management Plan, Contract Private Equity Fund, which is currently the mainstream market. And Xi'an Mica Group, as an active high-quality private enterprises along the Belt and Road, can successfully implement issuance of 3.3 billion yuan of rates products in a short period of time, which reflects the development of the private enterprises by professional financial institutions in the open market and its recognition and the support. There's another thing should be noted. The third store in China, the world's most beautiful bookstore, Tsutaya Bookstore, will open on March 27, 2021 at Mica Center. Tsutaya Bookstore in Mica Center covers 4,500 square meters. As a model and a forerunner of the new retail field in Xi'an, Mica hopes to inject fresh energy into the urban and residential life of Xi'an through its thoughtful service and lifestyle, the new proposals. At the end, I would like to say the good designing work speaks for themselves, and in the future, we hope we can bring up more unforgettable projects to the cities. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eugene Park, a lead designer from Callison RTKL. Today, I'm going to introduce the Mica Center from the point of view of the architect, explaining the thought processes that went into the designing of the building from the time of the first contact with the client all the way to present. As Mr. He started to elaborate, the design of the Mica Center explored the issues of the building in the historic city of Xi'an that mediates between the new and the old, the public and the private, and also the issue of what makes a modern landmark. From the beginning, we were very much interested in how the old informed the building of the new, and the subsequent grounding of the project in its specific and local contexts. Mica Group had planned the Mica Center, which would house its new headquarters, to represent the new era of the company, which was going through a fast-paced transition into an international powerhouse in the commodities trading in the private sector. When we first met with Mica almost 10 years ago, we had a narrowly defined scope of work, which included replanning and reskinning of the massing scheme designed by another architectural firm. This scheme included 2 conventional towers with square floor plans and a large retail podium that was very typical of many projects we see in Chinese cityscapes. We quickly realized the visions of the client and the city would not be met with this existing design. So we restarted the whole design process from scratch, of which the result we see today. Xi'an is one of the oldest cities in China, also known as the starting point of the Silk Road. Now the capital of Shanxi province in western China, Xi'an has served as the capital of many dynasties throughout history, and the most famous one being that of the Qin dynasty under the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, who ordered the construction of the Terracotta Army and his mausoleum just to the east of Xi'an, which is the city's most popular tourist destination to this date. Always been rich in history and culture, Xi'an had a somewhat late start in its economic growth spurts compared to other counterpart cities on the coast. But from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, the city witnessed one of the fastest growth in its economy and the birth and the influx of many global companies. By the mid-2000s, the city government planned Xi'an High-Tech Industries Development Zone, Gaoxinggu, to the west of the old city walls, to represent its economic prowess that would eventually house over 16,000 enterprises, both domestic and international. Microcenter's site is located in one of the new central business districts planned within this large master plan, along with other prominent towers and developments in various mixes of uses. As seen before, Xi'an is full of artifacts and historic sites that are truly awe-inspiring. Among them is the tall walls and towers of the city's fortification, which are still intact and can be visited to this day. In our early visits, we saw a large company event on top of the walls, which would be equivalent to the high-rises of today, with commanding views of the surroundings. We were told that many other activities occur on top of the fortifications, be it casual strolls from one part of the town to another, bike rides for sightseeing, sports events, and many different festivities that all became integral parts of the Xi'anese culture and everyday life. In contrast with how these newfound uses of the old infrastructure fascinated us, we also witnessed a desire for more urban connectivities and open space networks, a simple, walkable urbanity in the new parts of the town. All despite the shiny and tall buildings like we see in many dense urban centers of China. The project site was located in a prominent urban street corner, surrounded by other tall towers and dense developments in the city's master plan. Also, there was a neighborhood park planned at the opposite corner from this main intersection. Although there were no buildings yet on the lots, we could see that this landlocked green patch would be hidden among the high-rises and their oversized bases. So the first move we wanted to make was to carve a new passage through our site to make the direct connection from the main street corner to this park, instead of a retail podium that occupied the entire block, which would have been the typical response on a relatively crowded site like this, and that was also the prescribed master plan for this site. The new passage would serve as a pleasant shortcut to the neighbors. In a way, the city walls provided and extended the connectivities through the urban cores. The path also serves as a visual corridor to discover the urban oasis from the streets. Next, we had to put back the displaced programs, usually located near the ground floor, in our case, the various dining and entertainment venues of the larger hotel we were planning. We decided that the best solution was to create a bridge between the two towers and elevate all these programs to the larger floor plates on these levels. This would be not too unlike the festivities and the views we experienced atop the tall city walls. The idea of interconnected towers was not a very popular practice back then, but the client immediately understood the value of this design despite the added complexity and cost in realizing it. Last but not least, we wanted to add a large-scale gesture to the building that tied these two ideas, and as an expression of a gateway that celebrated the movements of people on the new path and MICA on the threshold of its new era. So emptying, instead of occupying the center of the site, gave us the opportunity to use this passage as a main retail street with the natural foot traffic created through the new connectivity. The above-grade passage is paralleled by one below-grade, where the small market and the food court provide convenience and dining choices to the many office workers in and around the project. The elevated bridge is occupied with Grand Hyatt restaurants, lounges, and bars, providing panoramic views 100 meters up in the air. The place to see out, as well as to be seen from the various parts of the city, it became the highlight of the new cool spaces in the district. In addition, we created a small landscaped outdoor space on top of the bridge as an extension to the club lounge to become a green space with very different sceneries from ones found on the ground level. The large ribbon screen is the element that connects the bridge and the path together. Starting from each side of the ground level, the ribbon rises along the towers, providing shading to the interiors while becoming the screen and the structure for the outdoor balconies of the office tower. Also, it naturally guides the viewer's gaze upwards along the towers, arriving at the bridge before descending down on the other side of the tower. Copper-colored metal was chosen not only for the unique color to stand out from the glass and the white and silver metals of the surrounding towers, but also as a symbolic tie to the MICA group as one of the major metal types that the business trades in. The unique geometry of the ribbon also creates a silhouette of a void that can be seen from far away. For the tower that is not the largest or the tallest among its neighbors, but most unique and recognizable, which we felt was a telling sign of a landmark. The project of roughly 150,000 square meters in area consists of a Class A offices, including MICA's headquarters, 396-key Grand Hyatt Xi'an with its dining and meeting venues, including 1,000 square meter oval-shaped ballroom, and the retail street that supports the project near the ground level. The office tower rises to 215 meters at 45 floors, while the hotel tower is 165 meters tall with 35 floors. The bridge connects the two buildings on levels 21 through 23 of the hotel. With the unconventional shapes and the bridge, we wanted to create a rather simple strategy for the tower's facade design, but one that is able to respond to its location and settings. We started by looking at ways to cope with the different solar radiation patterns around the building and designed a simple serrated wall type solution that has solid panels on one side and a large picture window on the other. Depending on the major direction of the sun and open views, we can choose the direction and the angles of its placement. The result is a tower facade despite being comprised of a simple repeating module that can change the character from very open to very closed depending on the view angles and changes functions accordingly. We also noticed that the design of our skin is like the armors of the terracotta soldiers we admire so much in the city's museums, in a way that its functional solution resulted in something also interesting and beautiful to look at. The podium elevations are made up of mixed design languages with angles and rounded corners that enliven the retail environment. They tie back to the overall design with the use of repeating materials and details. These are some of the photos of the project under construction from around 2014 to the official hotel opening in 2018. They show the all-steel construction, which was chosen for the optimization of the unique building forms and for the seismic design criteria. The design and the construction were carried out by the international team of dedicated experts and designers, including LTW and Ikegai for interiors, ACOM for structure and MEP, ALT for facades, Tino Kwan for lighting, and Shibei Yuan Design Institute as the local architect among many. BIM was crucial in the successful design and coordination of this complex project, as well as different levels of analyses and engineering that went into optimizing the structure MEP systems, user comforts, sustainability, and conservation measures throughout the design process. In the following slides, I'll do a quick tour of some of the main areas of the project. Podium with various retail tenants, and the arrival experiences for all functions, including the dynamic and expressive hotel lobby, as well as other various hotel functions housed in the podium. Bridge levels with different specialty restaurants and bars over 3 floors. Guest room floors with the unique room layouts and the interior design derived from the theme of the Silk Road and tying it to the contemporary design languages. And office spaces from the public lobbies to the MICA headquarters at the top of the office tower with its interconnected floors and skylit atrium. So to sum up, we try to show how the alignment of the 3 impetuses of the city, the developer, and the design team was crucial in the success of the project. Also, hope we conveyed how we approached the design of the MICA Center, from the ways we explored how the old and the existing inform the design of the new, and how fulfilling the private needs could coincide with creating an active interface towards the neighborhood and the public. And we feel that the MICA Center exemplifies that it need not be the physical dominance, being the largest or the tallest, to create a modern landmark, but by anchoring the project to its setting and by creating truly unique experiences informed by these influences. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene and He. This concludes our session, but please remember that this is only part 1 of 2 sessions in the 200 to 299 meters height category. Be sure to join us after the break for part 2. Thank you very much.